Yes. Good evening, everybody. I wish to send my warm greetings from Nebbi and the entire fraternity of Forum for Development of Greater Nebbi. Today, we have another opportunity to listen to one of our own, that is Boris Jakech, with the technologies to add value to our agricultural produce that can add our income levels at household level. We are aware recently we saw the poverty map, and where we fall as West Nile or Greater Nebbi is on the side of higher poverty statistics. Poverty cannot be anybody's friend, and we have to do all within our powers to chase poverty, and we can only do it through some of these innovations we are going to talk about to add value to our enterprises that we undertake in Greater Nebbi as a people. So I want to call upon all stakeholders to be keen and listen to what Boris is going to share with us, how the opportunities can be accessed, and we see how to change the narrative, as I always say. I just want to be brief at this moment and welcome everybody, and wish to say the meeting is opened. Thank you. My name is Emilio Odongo, once again, the president of for the Forum for the Development of Greater Nebbi. Over to you, moderator, Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Emilio.
Yeah.
Odongo, for that brief intro. And before I hand over the floor to our guest, that is Boris Jakech, I just want to go back again to what I said earlier, that this meeting falls within the ambits of what we are doing with Forum for Development of Greater Nebbi, which is agriculture as being one of the big tenets. So we really need to pay keen attention to what Boris is going to share with us. I'm also requesting those who are already in agriculture to be generous enough and share with us your experience, because we learn from each other, like in Alu, they say, Kowadi. If we don't share this knowledge, then it is useless. Any knowledge not shared is useless. That's the reason why our brother Jakech Boris is sharing that knowledge he has with us today. And for us, we shall share it further. So, without much ado, I'm going to invite our guest, Boris Jakech. Boris, I'm going to share the screen so that you can have the resources that you need for your presentation. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Take it away, Boris.
Before I start, I would like to recognize the presence of His Excellency Pamino Kulino, the ambassador of Swaziland to Uganda. I've seen he has joined us. You're most welcome, sir. At a later hour, we shall give you some time to share your experiences and the available opportunities that you feel you can also maybe tap in and bring into the people of West Nile. We shall be grateful for your opinion also and experiences shared. It's so humbling that you have given your time. We know you're a busy person to come and attend this meeting. Thank you so much, sir. Basically, today we're going to share something about agribusiness value addition technologies in the Greater Nebbi, and I'll focus even on the West Nile as a region, because this thing there are many people from Arua, from Koboko, who are going to join this conversation, and they're going to attend. Next slide. Basically, agribusiness refers to any commercial activities related to farming. Any product you get from farming, anything you get from farming, which can bring for you income, which can make you earn a living or earn some little token, is agribusiness. And it is made up of 3 different areas. It involves production, That
Boris, can you speak a bit louder, please? Some members can't hear you.
Okay. Okay. It involves production. That's one of the areas. Then it also involves processing, and it involves distribution. Next slide. In production of agriculture, if we look at the production of maybe for crops, we have areas of soil preparation where you go and dig the garden, whether with your rudimentary tools or with the tractors. Then you sow the garden. Then we do some people use things like manuring, irrigation, weeding, harvesting, and eventually storage. That one entails production of the crops. Then for animals, you can start maybe a small house, you provide shelter for the house, you buy your animals or the cattle, then you provide the water for them, you provide medication, you take care of them, you have to clean the house, you provide routine checkups, and eventually you sell it. And after production, next slide, we go into processing. Then in processing is basically adding value to your product, the product you have already produced. Remember, we started with production. And in value addition, processing is the essence of using mechanical and chemical operations to add value to the crops and the animals. By adding the value, you are either changing its form, which will lead it which will make it to be preserved for future testing or for future eating, which will bring sustainability in the value chain. You know, mangoes, there are crops like mangoes, they're perishables. Within 2 weeks, they're already done. But if you put value addition to them, after 1-2 years, you can still take mango juice, which is very interesting. In spite of all this, you find value addition in Uganda is still very minimum. There are very many areas which need to be tapped in, which has not yet been tapped in. And value addition, it refers to manufacturing process that increases the value of primary agricultural commodities. Next slide. Then after producing your crops, you will have to go into distribution. Of course, after production from the garden, you process it. And after processing, you have to distribute it into the market. And the distribution involves you take the product you have produced and processed, you take it from the producers to the consumers. This involves transportation, marketing, and eventually reaching the final consumers. There are different types of distribution channels you can use. There are big companies like Coca-Cola. For them, they use sales agents. Then there are people who produce on a small scale. They just, after processing, they distribute, they use direct channels. Then there are those who sell through retailers, and there are those who sell through wholesalers. All of them, they have their advantages and disadvantages, of which today our main focus is on the processing aspect, not the distribution and the production aspect. Next slide.
One second. Have we skipped? There you go. A bit of a technical issue, but sorry.
Okay. So when you look at some of the major agricultural products from West Nile and Uganda, just by mere looking at that table, you look at that the yield of the agricultural products produced from West Nile and if you compare in relation to the one of Uganda, you'll find our yield is a little bit high. First go back. Go to major agricultural products. Yeah, that one. If you look at the yield of maize from West Nile, it is 2.1. If you compare to the national yield, which is 1.7, it means that the areas of West Nile sub-region, our land is fertile, like you look for banana, our yield is 9.4, but for the national yield, it's just 12.3. So then you go to beans, our yield is 0.7, national is 0.6. So you find we have good land, our land is fertile, our productivity is good, but then we have a huge challenge when you come into processing of the food crops, into value addition products. Next slide. Then these are some of the
Boris,
major.
Boris,
Yes.
we are getting echo from your sound.
No, it's not from me. I'm actually hearing it.
You're also hearing it.
Yeah, I thought from somewhere.
Can everybody mute?
It's from Matun. Let him mute his microphone.
Try and mute your microphone. Right. Can you go on now? Are you okay, Boris? Are you there, Boris?
Oh, yes, I'm in.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Are we on the right slide or we need to move to the next one? Are we on the correct slide or we need to move to the next one? Are you there, Boris?
Hey, you're asking me?
Yeah, we're having a bit of a technical issue with your sound.
Ken, I'm just a participant. I've just logged in. What is my input?
No, I'm talking to Boris.
Okay. I had like Morris. B and M. Sorry.
Morris, can you mute yourself, please? Boris, we lost you, I think.
Hello, can you get me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
So you find in the, go back a bit. Hello, Kennedy, you go back one slide.
One sec. We're having a technical issue.
No, go back. You're going in front.
Technical
that one. There. That's it.
Yeah.
So you find maybe produce around. Yeah. Navy produced around 42.6 metric tons of honey in 2008. But now, if you look at internationally, you find in 1947, there were over 6 million beehives in the world. But this number reduced to only 2.4 million beehives. That is over a 60% reduction, meaning Navy has a huge potential in the honey business. Next slide. Next slide, please.
Having a bit of a technical issue today.
Yeah, that is it. So we have very many methods we use in the Greater Nebbi and Western sub-region and even Uganda at large for value addition. We find our people at home, they peel with their hands, they do crushing by hand, even some use the mortars, the pestle. Then you go to the lake sub-region, they do salting by hand. Then there is winnowing by hand, they thresh with sticks. Like if you look at threshing brings about 26% cost in the post-harvest handling. There's also boiling, there are manual sorting of fruits, and you find things like manual sorting it is very subjective in that you can be having issues with your eye. You look at red as being brown if you're sorting maybe tomatoes. And that one is it brings in issues. Then we have sun drying, whereby there is no homogeneity in the drying of grains, of which we can bring in different technologies, even harnessing energy from the sun to dry what we have. Next slide. Then the current problems which are brought by these methods, one, there is long.
1 second, Boris. Mr. Odongemilio, can you mute your mic, please? I'm sorry, we're having a bit of technical issues today, but we'll finish this. Don't worry about it. Go on, Boris.
So the current problems brought by these methods. One, you find, like, let's look at in the value addition of fruits, turning maybe mango into juice. If you peel it with your hand, you handle everything with your hand, then you use these buckets that you use actually batch processing, whereby you manually lift things from this to the next unit operation. It brings in long exposure time of the food products to non-acceptable conditions. This increases the product susceptibility to contamination. You find you process your product, and after 1-2 days, if you have not stored them well, they're already contaminated because you have exposed your food products to contaminants. Then there is also increased material handling. This is very time consuming and labor intensive. That's increasing the cost and even brings in low output in our productivity. Then there is increased wastage in the value chain. Like, let's take a look. If you look at where people slaughter most of our poultry, but you find we don't consume the legs, the heads, even the feathers, we don't consume them. But do you know that the carcass yields contribute to over about 75% of the live bird? What we eat is just the flesh. What if you get the legs, the feathers, and the head, you grind them, you crush them, and you use it to feed animals? You find there is a lot of wastage in the value chain. The next slide. Then there is also problems which is like a high percentage of broken grains during milling. This is basically due to temperature uniformities in drying. You find, if you're drying, you have to be turning your grains to bring in homogeneity in the drying of the grains, so that if one grain is to dry, all parts should be equally dry. But you find the methods we use to dry our grains, we just put them maybe on the rocks. Then after maybe 5-6 hours, someone goes, and sometimes even they don't turn them. That one, if you have gone to package that grain, it will break eventually, because some parts have water, some are dry, some are wet. That imbalances brings in the broken grains. Then threshing with sticks, according to Tibagonzega, brings in up to 26% loss of grains. If you can you can thresh your grains with the sticks, but then you'll find that the stress being brought by the sticks you're using will also affect the grains. Some will break. The stress will also affect it when you have made it to, you want to plant the grains, the productivity will be affected. Then there's also exposure of the farmers to respiratory diseases. If you're winnowing the grains, the dust will come, and this brings in respiratory problems to the farmers. What if we bring in mechanized machines to use for these winnowing processes? Then there is variation in ambient light intensity and difference in personal perception of activity. That one is the subjectivity. Like maybe when you're sorting for tomatoes, you're sorting for maybe mangoes, you find what you see as red might be brown in someone's face. But yet we can develop, and we have technologies whereby which can sort these things for us automatically with a higher efficiency. in the end, there is also low profitability in the value chain because we have a lot of waste and there's lack of sustainability in the value chain in relation to demand. You'll find like in Nebbi, there reaches a period where a bucket of mango is just 1,000. But then you reach after maybe 6 months or 4 months, they're selling 2 mangoes at 500. What if we add value, we put value to the mango to bring in sustainability in the value chain? Why? To solve that problem of the lack of sustainability. Next slide. Then there are very many opportunities in the value addition in Uganda, even in West Nile sub-region and Nebbi. Like, let's take a look. According to MEMD in 2008, we produce about 1.2 million tons of agricultural residues. And these were residues that were discarded away. But out of the 1.2 million tons produced, the ones which was recycled into energy was only not even 4%, meaning that the waste we produce from agriculture alone can supply nearly 20% of the electricity for this country. And that calls in the stakeholders like government to invest in producing electricity from agricultural waste. You look at soybean, how many of us have, if you look at our productivity in soybean, most of us, we produce our soybean. We just eat them like that. But this soybean can also be used as a substitute for milk. You can get 10 kilograms of soybean, you'll get soya milk from it, and you'll also get soya meat from it. There are many people who have eaten soya meat. It's a very interesting and expensive product. If you just eat soybean like that, you can lose over 80% of the value. But if you put milk, soya milk can be even used by both vegetarians and non-vegetarians. So there is a lot of potential. It's also soya bean, whereby we can get soya milk and soya bread from them. Then there is the poultry slaughterhouses. That one we talked about it, whereby 75% of the waste from carcass is all discarded away. The feathers, the legs, the head, they're just discarded away. Why can't we bring in value on that? Then about 60% of the fruits produced are sold and processed in Uganda. Why can't we add value to this food? Next slide. Then if you look at the annual post-harvest loss, averagely it is over 17%, almost for maize, millet, for all the grains. So you find over 50% of this output, we don't put value addition to them. How many of us take the grains and we mill them to get the final product whereby we sell? And if you look at the cost, let me take another example. If you start a company for producing mineral water, the cost of the drinking water you're going to put in the product is less than even 0.01%. And if you look at the production cost, the packaging, the sales, the marketing, it takes about only 45%, and the rest is just profit. And this profit is dependent on maybe the distribution cost. I'm so happy with Agri-water. For them, they focus mostly even on the local market there, and there is money there. Then if you look at like in the production of indigenous chicken, Uganda has over 43 million birds right now, exotic, and even 6 million. There is a 6 million increase by 2019. Yet in 2018, we had 43 million. So that one shows you, what if you venture into poultry feed? You get a machine maybe of 7 million, whereby per day your productivity is, you're producing a product of over 10 million. There is a huge potential there. Then you go into fisheries. We produced over 461,000 tons of fish. Actually, if you put them in total, they're over 500,000. But then the amount we're exporting is not even more than 15%. Then if you look at plastic, we have a lot of waste from plastics. We have to, what if you buy a machine for shredding plastic? You shred the plastic, you recycle it, and you sell it out. There are people who use plastic to make bricks, for building houses, for making tiles. You can use plastic. All these things you find you make money from them. And we have a lot of plastic right now. So why can't someone just buy a machine, which is like maybe 3 million, you shred the plastic and you'll be making your money. And I'm sure if you are making tiles from plastic, that is a lot of money. Next. Then we look at, let me look at cassava. Like it's one of the most staple food from Nebbi and West Nile sub-region, even in northern Uganda general, even parts of eastern Uganda. Most of this we consume them just after milling it, most of our people consume. But if you compare cassava with the sugar, a ton of sugar average in Uganda, you go to those factories, a ton of sugar is just around $570. But a ton of food grade starch got from cassava costs over $1,000 per ton. And yet, if you look at the industrial demand of this, the industrial utilization is even below 3%. So there is a huge potential in the starch business. I've seen Honorable, there is this gentleman from Kushwin, Honorable Ben, he's always talking about starch. He has put in some facilities. That is a good area. That is the area we should go in. And there's a huge potential there. We have a lot of cassava from Nebbi. Then you look at Uganda produces over 2.5 billion liters of milk. But the export earning we got from milk is only about $131 million. And yet the potential is over actually $1 billion. Why are we doing this? Because most of our milk, we are not processing them. Out of these 2.5 billion, the processing capacity of Uganda is only 21,000 liters per day. And if you calculate that, that is even below 20% of the productivity of the milk in Uganda. A kilogram of clove, which is not even processed, costs 55,000. Then there is this potential in hibiscus flowers, where you can use hibiscus flowers to make juice. It is a very simple process, whereby you find in a day you can even be earning over 5 million. If you can just produce 1,000 liters of hibiscus, we can even get hibiscus from wine. Next slide. Now, if you look at the situation of coffee in Uganda, you find Uganda exported around 3.2 million bags of coffee, and we earned around $266 million from it. And the coffee that we exported to earn us that money, it was unprocessed without adding any value to it. But if we were to add value to this coffee, we are going to get actually, if we just processed 20% of the 3.2 million bags of coffee, we are going to earn over 443 million. Meaning if we process 100% of the 3.2 million bags, we are in over 2 billion earning from coffee. But we are exporting 3.2 million bags of coffee unprocessed, making us lose a lot of money. Then you look at the soya production in West Nile, we are producing over 665 metric tons with a yield of 0.5. And if you look at the yield, it's even more than the national yield, which is at 0.4. But we don't process most of these foods. People come and buy them cheaply. Why can't we get the milk and the bread from the soya bean? If according to FAO, actually, they say that the sub-Saharan Africa loses over 20 million metric tons of food annually, which is of a value of over $4 billion. And if you look at Uganda, we are part of the sub-Saharan Africa. We are losing a lot of money just because of lack of the value addition potential. If you look at what I talked about, the coffee, whereby we exported 3.2 million bags of coffee and earned only 266 million because it was unprocessed, of which if we exported 20% of it, which is processed and has undergone full value addition process, we would have earned close to even $500 million. So we need to really look into value addition. I call it always the black gold. Next.
Right, before we go to the next slide, I see some of you raising your hands up. Can I just ask you to let Boris finish his presentation? Then you'll ask him all the questions that you have, or anything that you need to say. So for those of you who have your hands raised up already, it might be a good idea to just put the hands down. The time will come for that. Thank you. Boris, go on.
Then there is avocado. I happened to grab from Zombo when I was still young. You find people take avocado to the market, and in the evening, if they fail to finish all the cells, they just leave them there in the market. But there's a huge potential in avocado. You know that a liter of avocado oil costs not less than 350,000. In a day, if you can just get 5 liters, you're close to 2 million. And this avocado, we can also use it in the bioenergy to produce electricity from the peels, where you use the peels as the substrate. Then there is the bioethanol from the seeds. You know, the seeds, they have a high energy potential, even more than most of these other food crops. So if you dry the seeds and you burn them out, you can produce electricity. Then there are also research done in Brazil, whereby they produce oil. They produce biodiesel from the oil, which can be used to power even vehicles. We can also use, for us, the peels, we throw them away. We can use the peels as fertilizer. And above all, consumption, which we use actually like 99%. Actually 99.9% in Uganda is just for consumption. But there's a huge potential in avocado. The most important is the avocado oil. Why can't we tap into that? If you go to Zongo, there's a lot of avocado there. Why can't you just put something simple? You get your 5 liters per day and you make money. Next slide. In the end, there are some basic examples of the value addition products that you can develop and commercialize. Like you look at dairy, of the 2.5 billion liters of dairy we should produce, we can get ice cream. There's actually no ice cream booth in Nebbi. I was there in December. There's no ice cream booth in Nebbi. In Payid, I don't know if it is there. I've stayed for a while without going there. Even yogurt, we can start producing yogurt. You don't need to pack them maybe in this small jerrycan. You can pack them in a jerrycan. I have a friend who started a small factory for producing yogurt. She packs them in this small 5-liter jerrycan and sells each jerrycan at 22,000. She makes a lot of money. She's comfortable. Then we can also make cheese. We can make butter. We can make from soya. We can get soya milk, soya bread. There are bakery products. We can also get refined grains. You get your cassava, you mill it. You get your millet, your sorghum, you mill it to get the flour. We have a lot of mangoes and oranges from it. We can process them. Then we also have lime. There's hibiscus. It's a virgin market. People love hibiscus juice. It's a natural cocktail. Why can't you start hibiscus farming? The production of hibiscus juice is one of the simplest processes, but we just lack the ways of imparting those skills in people. Then there's poultry feed. I have a friend from Arua. I don't know if he has joined us. He's called Engineer Kevin. I built for him a machine for making poultry feed. The production capacity of the machine is 1,200 kilograms per hour. And from that machine, meaning per hour, the money can earn is 1.92 million because a bag goes for around 40,000. So you find that Kevin is now a settled man. The machine produces about 1,000 kilograms per hour and you're earning over close to 2 million per hour from the machine. It all comes down now to market. So long as you have your product, you have to strategize and market. We have a lot of fish from Lake Albert. There are people who are doing fish farming. There's a product from fish called fish nuggets. It is sold in these big supermarkets. We are actually importing them from outside. Why can't we produce our own? I was at Makere Food Incubation Center. They produce it at a bare minimum scale, fish nuggets. Then there's tomato sauce. We have a lot of tomatoes. People are wasting tomatoes. But why can't we get tomato sauce? We need to find a way of scaling our people on these things with the people who know how to produce some of these products. There's briquettes. We have over 1.2 million wastes. Dr. Nyathirombo was talking of starting one. That will be so great. Because if you go to our market, there's a lot of waste product there. Next slide. Next slide. Then the challenges affecting value addition. One of the biggest challenges is the lack of the necessary knowledge on value addition. Well, me, I might be having the knowledge of how to produce ice cream, how to make yogurt. No, first go back a bit. One slide back. Thank you. The challenges affecting value addition. There is lack of the necessary knowledge. Well, I might have the knowledge to make yogurt, to make ice cream, to make sausages, to make maybe some of this, to make juice. But in the end, how do I impact them to the farmers? Most of the farmers don't know how to do this. I might know how to make the soya milk and soya bread from the soya beans, but the person producing, there is lack of the capacity to train the farmers. Then there is lack of capacity to meet the high demands and expectation of customers in terms of quality, quantity, and consistency. You might find today the juice is tasting very sweet, tomorrow it is sour. Today the soya milk is white, the next day it is watery. Then most of the farmers, we find our farmers actually from West Nile and even Uganda, they operate at a subsistence level. This subsistence level cannot sustain commercialization of farming, whereby you have to produce on a large scale. You cannot handle that. Then the farmers lack financial and technological capacity to process their produce, accessing the technology of milling these things, of getting the juice. It is very hard. Above all, the banks, they offer loans at very huge interest rates. I'm happy for the government. They have tried to bring in the Myoga fund, but most of our youth, even they don't know how to disseminate this knowledge and to use these funds well. Some of them have actually finished drinking them. Then there are a few corporately owned agro-processing industries to organize the farmers. While I was growing up, I remember cotton used to be a booming business from Greater Nebbi, and coffee. At some point, a kilogram of coffee was actually 12,000. It was because of the cooperatives and the unions. But right now, there are no more. Cotton is actually, I always say it is now no more. It doesn't help much because we lack those cooperatives, which used to be booming up in our areas. Then there is lack of market-oriented farming. We just farm to survive, to eat and take and live. Then there is lack of enough forums which farmers can join and share experiences. There are farmers who have really reaped big from agriculture. New Vision has tried to let farmers share their experiences in conjunction with the Dutch government, but it is not sufficient. And it is not enough. These things, there are few farmers who can read and write. How do you disseminate such information to farmers in the village there? Then we as a country, we spend so little on research and development. We look at Uganda is importing apples from Israel. We import fruits from Israel. It is because we spend just less than 1% of our GDP on research and development. Israel as a country, they spend about 12% of their GDP on research and development. Why can't the government increase funding on research and development and find a way of profitizing these things? So we need to really do a lot it involves all stakeholders. We need to come up and do things better. Next slide. Then some of the solutions to these challenges, I've highlighted them there. There's provision of nationwide scaling of the farmers. Last year, I had a conversation with the Commissioner of Patriotism, that is Brigadier General Patrick Wesigan. We had an idea of moving in the different patriotism training camps, whereby we skill the youth during the patriotism training, how to make maybe yogurt, how to do some of these basic value addition processes. But then as we were planning for those things, Corona came, lockdown came. It was a good move. So we have to provide a way of skilling our youth. There are different areas where we can skill them. There are organizations like URI. They should find a way of disseminating those information to the local people down there. There is Makerere University Food Incubation Center, a very good place for skilling. Actually, if your kid is not studying, you feel someone is giving up on life. I feel you just take him there for 3 months. By the time he's getting done with at Makerere University Food Incubation Center, you will come up with the necessary skills to do these value addition processes. Then we need to focus on training of trainers, whereby you train someone who can easily impart the information to the next person, not necessarily training someone who cannot go and train someone again. So it is called TOT. It's a very interesting idea. It's a concept developed by the UN, whereby you train trainers, someone like I give you the skill, but you should also be in position to go and train another person who can also train another person. By that, we form a triangle, and we shall find in like 10 years, this country will be amazing. It's the same thing which has happened in China. They have been in position to build the capacity of their people. Then we have to set farmers into groups. Like right now, if I say maybe you start a poultry feed mixer, it is about 10 million to set everything to go, of about 1,000 kilograms per hour. There are few farmers who could afford that. Why can't maybe we put maybe 10 people to come up with the capital, and they start with things, they contribute 1 million, and they set it up. A month, you know, you're earning no less than 10 million from that. Then there's also protecting and supporting of the local market from imported agricultural products or machines. The Chinese are actually very expensive. Like this poultry feed mixer, one day I went there, they were selling one of 1,000 kilograms per hour, the production capacity. The Chinese are selling at 14 million, some sell at 16 million, but this is a machine which costs just 6 million to make. You go to Honorable Nyakesho Annette from Tororo wanted to make cassava milling machines for the people of our constituency. The Chinese, they were charging her for a 20 horsepower water-cooled engine. They were charging her 25 million. After beginning, they told her to pay 23 million. But this is a machine which can be made in even under 8 million. So they are very expensive. They're actually exploiting us. The government should also start offering the soft loans and grants, like the Myoga program should continue. And we should increase our funding in research and development. If we cannot reach 10% of the GDP, we should make it just at around 1%. That will really do a very great thing for us. Next slide. The cost involved in small-scale validation. You know, we have this notion that to start a factory, you need maybe 10 billion. To start a processing plant, you need maybe 100 million. To start a value addition program, you need maybe 50 million. But that is so wrong. It is something which scares away people from venturing into value addition. I can say confidently that with even 2 million, you can start your value addition processes. With 10 million, you can start an amazing setup whereby at the end of the month, you're making some good money. So this notion that value addition is very expensive, we need to run out of it. Let's take a look. The cost maybe for starting up can even be from 1.5 to 100 million. This depends on the production capacity, the product development cost, the technology being employed, and among other variable factors. The cost of starting a poultry feed mixer, like the one I talked about, which can produce 1,200 kilograms per hour. This is experience from engineer Kevin from Arua. It is what he employed. I built for him a machine which produces 1,200 kilograms per hour with an earning of 1.92 million per hour. A total production of, actually, he earns around 15.36 million per day, assuming 8 hours of operation. And the machine was so cheap, he actually paid me only 7 million. Right now, Kevin is into adding value to his, even making cooking oil. And he's making wine. He's doing well actually in Arua. If you're in Nebbi, you can pass by his factory He has a small factory there in Arua, and he's doing fine. And this is someone whom I say is a friend, but now he's into it and kicking up. Then the cost of starting, like let me say, Agri-business is producing plant, maybe with a production capacity of 1,000 liters per day, is even about 7 million. But in sales, that 1,000 liters it can be around 25 million, but in sales you can earn about 7 million per day, of which you have spent your 25 million within 1 month. You have already broken even into the production. Then there are other small plants like for rice, cassava, dehulling rice, threshing rice. Then for nuts, for soya, threshing simsim, sorghum. It is between 1.5 to 12 million, depending on whether you need maybe a 5 horsepower machine, a 16 horsepower, it is diesel engine, 20 horsepower. That is the variance where it comes, but it's not that expensive. But if you go to these Chinese shops, they are very expensive. Next. These are some of the agro-processing machines which I've designed personally and made. There is this pineapple juicing machine that was actually my final year project, whereby it peels the pineapple, it separates the peels separately. The juice is also separated differently, and the waste. Now, what we call the waste is actually the pomace. Me, I don't call it the waste, because that one you can also use it you can still add value to it and you get something from it. But you find this machine, it separates, it peels, it performs actually continuous processing. I ran away from batch processing. Remember, I told you earlier on, batch processing, it exposes your product to contamination due to the handling of the product. So there is susceptibility to contamination. So I ran away from batch processing, whereby you just drop your pineapple, the peels go differently, the juice goes differently, and the waste goes different. Separate 3 things. This same principle can also be applied to passion fruits, because cutting these passion fruits and scooping the seed, it's very hard. You can fabricate a machine whereby you drop the whole passion fruit, it peels it, the peels go differently, the seeds go differently, and the juice also goes differently. Continuous processing, not this batch aspect, which in the long run is very expensive. This one had a production capacity of around 1.6 tons. Next.
Boris, before we go to the next slide, if you could talk about the cost as well, if somebody wants to buy one of these machines.
Well, now the cost is dependent on various factors. One is the production capacity. Then 2, if you are fabricating your machine, there are 2 things. The first key thing you have to consider is, does your product come into contact? Does it produce water? Because if a product produces water, meaning if you use any other metal apart from food grade stainless steel, that is stainless steel 304, you'll find they will be rusting. And even internationally, even UNBS, they'll arrest you, because there will be sediments of metals in your product from the rust. So another challenge which I've faced in this area is there are very few people who can weld stainless steel products in Uganda. Most of these guys who weld their products, they know how to weld these other metals, but not food grade stainless steel. But the gentleman, for him, he trained how to weld from Belgium, and you find he knows how to weld it. The guy worked with him, and it is really a very good thing. But this one can go even below 20 million. But the production capacity is 1.6 tons per hour. And this one, if you go to those Chinese shops, they're selling them at over 100 million. Actually, Makerere University Food Incubation Center has a similar machine. They imported from outside, but theirs does not separate all the 3 things at once. It just peels it and it squeezes the juice, but the pomace, you have to use an hydraulic pressing machine to extract the juice. It doesn't squeeze the juice out. So I had to modify from theirs there. separate all the three things.
Thank you for that.
Then these are shaft cutters. I built one of the motorized shaft cutters. The one I built was actually tractor pulled for Honorable Ashidri James. I'd invited him to come for this meeting, but he told me he was traveling. He's an MP he's a former MP for Marasha sub-region. He has a big farm there. So I built for him a motorized shaft cutter. Then there is also the manual one for those who cannot afford the motorized one. The manual one can, it depends on the size, can even go for 1.5, 1 million. The motorized one can even go for 2.5, 3.5, depending on the capacity you need, the production capacity you need. Then the tractor pulled one is 12 million, the one I built for him. But it's a very beautiful machine. Next slide. There we have the mobile maize shellers, the one you can pull with the tractor or with your vehicle, then the motorized maize threshers. Now, both of these machines, you can even modify them into tractor pull. The mobile maize sheller, I supplied one to South Sudan. A gentleman connected me there, and it was supplied through an NGO. I didn't do the procurement myself. They just told me to fabricate for them, the person who won the procurement deal. It's also a good machine. This one can come in even 16 horsepower diesel engine, which is water cooled. I like water cooled compared to air cooled engines. They are more efficient, and can come in 20 horsepower, can come in 8.8, can come in 5.5. And the cost is just between 3.5 to 12 million. The tractor pull is just 12 million. But if you go to those Chinese shops, it is around 25, 30 million, some even 40 million. That is how they do it. Next. Then there are Gina shellers. The manual one can go for 1.5. Then there are the motorized Gina shellers, the one which the motorized one, you can even put it to be tractor pull if you want a modification where you pull it, you take it to your garden. The next one, I wanted us to discuss more. We get more interaction and share with people. Then there is the rice thresher. We can make the tractor pull, the one which is not tractor pull. All they're there. Next. Then there is this is the mobile shaft cutter, the example, the one I made for Honorable Ashidri James. Next one.
Can you tell us more about the maize sheller, please?
Now, the maize sheller, you find, but this one is mostly the people from Eastern Uganda, they love, they plant a lot of maize. So it depends on the production capacity you want. You can make from 3 horsepower, and we can also use the MBM engine, which is around 8 horsepower. Diesel engine can produce around 500 kilograms per hour. Then there is the MBM 500 engine, which produces around 1,000 kilograms per hour. And the cost is between 3.5 to 12 million. Depends on the modifications, whether you want it tractor pulled or you don't want it tractor pulled, you want 500 kilograms per hour, 1,000 per hour, 1,500 per hour. So what the variance in cost, but all these machines are between 3.5 to 12 million. Depends on what you want.
Thank you.
Then there is the sorghum grain thresher. This one starts from actually 3 horse. This one you can get it from 2.5 to 12 million, depending on the modification. Then the horizontal feed mixer, that is one I built for Engineer Kevin from Marua. That one has a capacity of around 1,200 kilograms per hour. Very nice machine. It was using 8 horsepower and it was a water-cooled diesel engine.
How does the horizontal feed mixture work?
Now, the horizontal feed mixture, there are 2 types of poultry feed mixtures. We have the horizontal feed mixture and the vertical feed mixture. But I will always recommend farmers not to use the vertical feed mixture because 1, it is expensive to maintain. And 2, in mixing it takes, every batch takes more time. The horizontal can take around only 5 to 7 minutes to homogeneously mix your product. But the vertical, you find it takes more. And the horizontal has an advantage whereby it is not dependent on, you don't need to determine, the amount of water which you put in the mixer you're putting also affects its efficiency. But the horizontal is not affected by the amount of water which you have put in it. It is much more efficient compared to the vertical one. And it uses spikes. They have spikes inside that they're rotating, and they rotate at around 100 RPM.
Thank you.
Then there's the pulp finisher. This one needs to be fabricated with food grade stainless steel. Now this one is used in the production of mango juice. Then you can also use grapes. You can pulp grapes from them. I think the hand operated shaft cutter, we are repeating it. The next. Then lastly, this is the plastic shredder or crusher. I told you we produce a lot of plastic waste. Why can't we crush this plastic and we produce maybe tiles from plastic? We just use some adhesive and we get the tiles, or we use bricks for building houses. Then the animal feed grinder, maybe for grinding the carcass from the chicken. Next.
I think that is next. Right. Boris, that was a very exhaustive presentation. And I'm sure there's a lot that people want to talk about, regarding your presentation. Before we do that, I just want to recognize the presence of the Ambassador of Swaziland to Uganda. That is His Excellency Bamwene Quilino. Now, I'm not very sure about my geography, but I believe the name of that country has been changed recently to something like Itsaswini, if that's the correct pronunciation. Your Excellency, are you with us? Are you still with us? I believe he's not at the moment with us, or he's having some technical issues. I also would like to recognize the presence of Honorable Bika Lawrence. I saw you briefly a while ago. If you're still around, you're welcome. Now, there are a lot of questions that I believe participants would like to ask Boris. I'm seeing hands already being raised up. There are some questions in the chat as well. If you've got questions that you believe needs to be answered, please put them on chat. Honorable Dr. Samorash, you can unmute yourself and say what you have to say.
Thank you, moderator. I'm blessed even to be the first to be asked to speak. And I also saw the ambassador on the chat. I didn't know that was the ambassador, so that's great. This is a very powerful presentation. I want to thank Engineer Boris very much for the very eloquent presentation. I just want to make, apart from what I have written, I was reviewing and I noticed that while he was encouraging us to take up a number of interventions, I noticed that there are some studies that have been carried out in Uganda, and they found that generally in Uganda it is more common to see new businesses started rather than businesses growing. In other words, many of our new businesses collapse before their first birthday. And among the various causes of the collapse are issues of management. And I thought maybe the engineer could talk about that also a little bit, management of businesses. Number two, 70 of cases cited the limited access to financial capital. And with that, 73.2% of people studied have indicated or lamented the high cost of accessing that capital. For example, I think the interest involved and so on, affecting us. Now, maybe my final comment is that in Greater Nebbi at the moment, if somebody wants to do something, especially in agriculture, it has to be, should I say, all in one. If you are doing dairy farming in Greater Nebbi, you must produce your own pasture feeds, or even when you do your own value addition, you are producing grass. Let me use simple languages, and you do your own value addition. So instead of focusing on managing your animals and selling your products, you also have to go in that. And people still don't go, nobody says, let me focus on producing hay, for example. And I sell to people who are doing dairy farming. But also, I think people in Greater Nebbi still, I find it difficult to stimulate local demand, local market that can pull the small growers, the small entrepreneurs within the district. So how can we stimulate a sort of a chain of production rather than each person going into production, having to do everything that it takes from the beginning to the end? And instead we have one person who fits into the next and then that one fits into the next. I think I will stop there for now and I'll make their comments and ask their questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Raj. Boris, do you have anything to add to what you're saying or anything you want to respond to from what Dr. Sam has said?
The issue of management, actually, there is a professor who told me the most important aspect in anything you do, it is management and the marketing. Because you can produce your product, you can have your machine, you can have all the capacity to do something. But if you don't know how to manage it, how to market it, it brings no profit to you. So I would recommend that maybe we put training programs. We have very many forums and NGOs dealing with farmers. They are like AFAD, they have so many, Caritas Uganda. They should put training programs to farmers on how to manage their productivity, the value chain, from production up to the distribution. And they should provide the linkages to the farmers. If I'm producing, maybe if I have a poultry farm and this one is having a machine which can make poultry feed, why can't you link them up? Why can't we generate a database whereby we know there is a farmer in Arua having 1,000 poultry birds and the one in Nebbi is producing feeds? Why can't they link up? We need to bring in such synergies to promote these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Boris. There's somebody on Huawei Y9 2019. How is that a problem pronouncing that company? Is it Huawei or Huawei or whatever it is? Can you unmute yourself, please? You've been having your hands up for a very long time. You have something to say? Huawei Y9 2019. If not, we go to Okur Watts. I see you have your hand up. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, thank you so much, the moderator.
Dr. Sam, can you put your hand down, please?
Yes, thank you so much, Kennedy. And I want to thank Engineer Boris for the presentation. It has really been eye-opening some of us. Mine is not a question as such. It's just he presented the dilemma that as a country or as a region we face. And he talked about if, for example, I decide to produce a liter of oil from maybe avocado, where will I sell this product? Are there companies that are readily available to purchase this? I know this is a dilemma even for our administrators, or let me say the government, for a better word, to put those linkages, like Engineer Boris was saying, that if I'm producing this, how do I link up with the market that is going to consume this? Because I think most of the fear of people is, if I venture into something, will I truly get the market? What you speak of is on, it may seem, for lack of a better word, I may say, on paper, it may seem so good that I can go in and start producing a liter. Maybe if I produce 5 liters in a day, and each liter costs about 350,000 in a day, I can make all this money. But will I actually make that money? That is a different challenge that we have to deal with. But I believe that shouldn't hinder us as a people, because we have to begin from somewhere. Engineer talked about Israel, of how they produce the fruits we get from them. And yet that was a desert country, actually. But because of their innovativeness and the robustness of the government, because I believe this thing involves so many stakeholders. I believe as a government, if it would prioritize the local farmer and invest more in research, first of all, and in even educating the local farmer and ensuring that the farmer is skilled, we can indeed reach somewhere. We have to begin somewhere. That is what I'm trying to say. And I believe we can debate on where can we begin from as a country. We have to begin from somewhere. Otherwise, thank you so much, Kennedy, and thank you so much, my brother Boris, for the presentation.
Thank you, Kurwat. Boris, that was a comment, but if you have anything to add to that, that's fine. It wasn't really a question that you need to respond to, you know.
I think we can go to the next.
Okay, Doc. Dr. Sam, I still see your hand up. It was up from the original hand that raised up. I'll go to Sam Mure. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, hello, good evening. Yes, Sam.
How is Germany?
Yeah, Germany is fine. Well, Engineer Boris, thanks for the information we have received from you. Very informative and very exciting. But the question is, since everything is clear, but if I feel we have a problem, we have some few issues to solve. That is the post-harvest handling, processing capability of our area. And I feel this is the main issue which brings us down, because, for example, before me, somebody spoke about this is oil which you can't sell because he produced them in very low amount. And that is for the market, it is, of course, very difficult to get one. But if we combine the community in cooperatives and try to sell together, at least financially, we can afford to get a machine which can produce a greater amount. With all those ideas which given in this area, I feel the problem is not the processing idea. That is my issue, which I feel is really great to be handled. If we can be handled or somehow get the possibility to achieve this machine, all the process, the possibility of financing it, I feel we can get somewhere a step forward in trying to get our agricultural, because agriculture is the main income. Let me say, what is it? Our main income area of district. Therefore, post-harvest handling is very important in achieving the value which we need, which is very, very important to have our products on the market. That's a comment. Thanks.
Thank you, Sam. Boris, that was a comment. I believe we have all taken notes from that. I'm gonna pick up on Patrick Onyai. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you, Engineer Boris, for the presentation. So my comment was that your presentation was quite enlightening and unfortunate that, most of us, as my senior Dr. Sam had said, that we want to pick everything, and eventually you find that the business within 1 year, that's the death of it. So it is better, we need to encourage ourselves that if I want to go into poultry feed, then I specialize in that particular area. Yeah. And then before you go into that venture, really, you need to do your research because the market is very, very important. So you need to do your survey and go to the right people and know what market do you need. And then what is your capacity of the production of what you want to supply. And then you can maybe bring in other partners and you see what you can do that. And secondly, what you add, as Mr. Sam was saying, the post-harvest handling. In our especially when you look in our home there, you put the thing, you pick the fruits and drop down on the ground and they get contamination and so on. And you see, it becomes post-harvest handling is very, 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 very key and important if you're to go into those production. And then what we forget again is because we need that issue of biosecurity. Biosecurity is very, very, very important. And for example, those are going to, if you are going to animals like pigs and chicken, poultry, you need to ensure that they are protected. Not any visitor should just go into the animal house and what they need to get disinfected and so on, so that you protect and make sure you reap maximum from your investment. So that means that specifically you may have to remain in management. You sort of management in a particular area that I'm going to produce maybe broilers, that you're going for chicken. If you're going for layers, then I'm going to produce eggs. So feeds, you need to get somebody who can supply you with feeds. Don't go into making the feeds everything yourself because it becomes tedious and time consuming, and then makes you lose track of your investment because you need to follow up to manage what you have invested. So that is what my contribution I want to do there. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. Sir, Boris, you have any comment about that?
No, I wanted us to go to the charts and
I've got something I've got a lot in the charts already that I need to pull out for you. Maybe I start with one. There's one here from Brian Ogenroth. Brian would have said this verbatim. Unfortunately, he's having network issues, so he has posted it and asked me to read it for everybody to listen. So I'm just reading what he has posted. He says, my network is quite poor. Dear moderator, you can read out my comment, please. I have 3 questions to Boris. Number 1, how best can we harness the potential of Greater Nebbi to produce starch and ethanol as complementary products in the cassava value chain? What is required in terms of cost? Where is the gap? That's the first question. You want me to read all the questions? You want to deal with that first?
You read it, it's okay.
Right. The second question is, I did not hear a comment on aflatoxin. Perhaps I missed the point on this. Could you please throw some light on to avoid that at farmer level, especially, that chemical that has been causing problems between Uganda and Kenya when it comes to maize? The third question has the current status of power in the region derailed of the value additional technologies in any way? As I conclude, I would like to inform the House about, number one, about CURAD, that is C-U-R-A-D, a PPP initiative that incubated youth in agro-processing through skilling, branding, product development, and so on. It is based in Kabanyolo Agricultural Institute, Makerere University. Also, the Food Technology and Business Incubation Center at Makerere University trains the private sector actors about hands-on training for young people. So basically, the last bit is just an additional comment, but the three questions there for you, Boris.
Let me start by commenting about aflatoxin. That was, I think, the second question.
Yeah.
You know, large doses of aflatoxin can lead to acute poisoning. And the process is called, I think it is called aflatoxicosis. That can be life-threatening, and usually through damage, it brings damage to the liver. And you find that the outbreak of this acute liver failure, and it basically started in the late 1950s or 1960s there, whereby you find people become sick and eventually they die. But then there are this notion that if we cook aflatoxin, is it safe? Is it good for us? Well, according to research, you find that if you heating and cooking under pressure can destroy nearly 70% of the aflatoxin in rice. But then, do our people know how to cook it under pressure? That is where the question comes in. So in the end, the only thing I will recommend is let farmers they minimize the usage of such chemicals in their post-harvest handling, because there are international countries, like we have seen our maize being stopped from exportation to Kenya because of higher aflatoxin levels. And in the end, that also comes to the regulatory bodies like UNBS. They are not training the farmers enough. The NGOs involved, they are not doing enough. So sometimes we have to use all the platforms available to encourage farmers not to use it. But I've seen in West Nile, few people use aflatoxin. It is mostly common in Eastern Uganda, where people grow maize on a large scale. So basically, I will say we should desist from it. We try to avoid using them. Then there was a question, is it how best can we harness the potential of Greater Nebbi to produce starch and ethanol as complementary products in the cassava value chain? What is required in terms of cost? Now, in the production of starch, the cost is a little bit high. I will not hesitate to say that. What I will say is other stakeholders like government should start up demonstration factories where they can put in all the regions, maybe in Nebbi, Arua, Koboko, they put processing plants of maybe $3 million where they can extract this starch. Actually, Honorable Akena Benson, he started, I always see him posting that they liaised with some NGO they brought in. So people should tap in that thing which Honorable Akena Benson brought in. It can really help, but the government should do enough to bring, because that is an expensive, it has a high initial investment cost. Can we of around $1 million, $3 million? So there are things we cannot do all. We need the government and even private entities to invest in by attracting investors like that. We can talk, we need starch, but then we maybe can afford to start a factory which will bring in the starch production. We need the private entities and government to come in. So it should be a three-pronged attack to enlighten us on that. Then I do not hear a comment on, no? There were three questions?
Yeah, there were three questions.
Power is of course a very big
power is
issue.
affecting value addition.
It is so political because I was reading somewhere in the National Development Plan Phase 2, that was in around 2014 to 2016, they were supposed to connect West Nile to the national grid. But then they never connected West Nile to the national grid. We got a loan of $100 million to connect West Nile. But we later on, I don't know what happened with the money. I don't want to comment on that. But then recently, the president went to Arua, connecting West Nile to the national grid. But in the end, at what cost? Power is so expensive in West Nile. They were saying when Agag starts, power will be cheap, but it is even more expensive. It's actually more expensive than Omeme. That has greatly affected us. Power is our biggest issue. That's why I always say, if you need a machine, you don't go for motors. You always go for those diesel engines. It is much more convenient. Thank you. Then I saw in the chat someone asking, how do you pasteurize pineapple? Basically, pasteurization, actually that's where most of our people, they lack the knowledge. Pasteurization is wherever you can, after producing your juice or the pulp, it doesn't only apply to pineapple. Any juice, you heat it to a temperature of around 80 degrees Celsius. But there are two types of pasteurization. There is batch pasteurization and there is continuous pasteurization. Now in batch pasteurization is where you use a big jacket which is filled with water, which produces, the essence is not to heat the juice directly. You heat it through a medium. That is, the water gets into contact with the metal and heats it. If you heat it directly, it brings caramelization. So after pasteurization, it is a process which is good for demonstration. I'll be grateful if Greater Nebbi Forum can organize such demonstrations. We do pasteurization, the pharmacy, then we tell them the quantity of the preservative you can add, maybe citric acid, sodium benzoate, which percentage, how to measure them. Then you how to package them, because after pasteurization, you need to package, you do hot packaging to avoid the contamination. It's really something which needs practical observation, but it's an interesting thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Boris. I hope the president of FDGN has heard that, Mr. Dongamelio. We can do a practical demonstration of pasteurization. So I need you to pick that up and organize with Boris. Do a quick video of him doing it, people witnessing it, and we post that to our members to see. I'm going to pick up on Maurice Manano. Your hands have been up for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I kept
very interested in your opinion because you're so much involved into farming. So this will be interesting.
Now, thank you, Dr. Ken, and thank you, Engineer. I would pick it from the perspective of the community's challenge, the current community challenge. Unless I missed it somewhere, I was seeing the discussion is going towards more to the investors' perspective. Because what are the challenges our community are facing with the post-harvesting in terms of like issues of cassava, issues of maize. I heard you talk about maize, the sorghum, and all these crops. Now, one time I remember sharing, which was so dreadful to me as I was growing up, was Bitongora. Bitongora is so bad that it even affects our mothers from digging a lot of cassava from the garden. So my brother Boris, I would wish to, unless I missed it, if you could do something towards things like Bitongora, a machine which can peel cassava. I think I will come for one for my community. Thank you.
Very, very important, Boris. Very, very, very crucial.
Okay.
That's something that I wanted to ask as well. I've been looking at you, displaying all the machines, and you mentioned nothing about peeling cassava. Thank you, Maurice, for that. I'm still seeing a lot of hands up. Uganda, please unmute yourself.
All right, thank you so much. I think I've been off for some time, but I'm happy that I'm back now. I would like to first start by thanking the engineer, Boris, and the Dr. Patrick for the organization, everything. Now, here, I have one major thing here. It's not a question, it's just a supplement to what I've had there. Because I've had, we've been talking about training people and a lot of things about forming different corporations, associations, and the rest. because basing on what personal I've been observing in the community, we have this gap of you find that the people come together. Yeah, there are so many associations that have been formed, and the challenge that comes in is that they are formed, and the people, since they lack financial knowledge, they might be having the knowledge of forming the associations, but now with the lack of the financial knowledge, you find these people now have short-term thought. They feel like if they are starting an agro-processing industry or anything, it should start bringing money just there and then and immediately, and that's what has been scattering all these associations. At the end, people fall apart because these ones think when they start a poultry farm together, they should start harvesting the money tomorrow. Now, if it is a long-term thing, it affects. Now, this thing, I think it is very important also as we train the people on the management of how they can manage the group, then the financial knowledge should also come in so that these people also know how the money is built up. If it is a project that is aimed at making money, then will it be a short term, a long term? Then our people should also get to understand such kind of things. And another thing I would also request is, I don't know whether it exists already or I missed the point somewhere, if really the Forum for Development of Greater Nebbi could also help us in having a kind of a consultation team, because personally I've had issues with this. You find now sometimes you feel like asking for some advice from some experts, but it's not easy to get such. And some of us who are living in other people's land, of course, when you reach there, they say, now we have to charge you this amount for consultation, and this, it has always been scary. And personally, there was a time I was thinking about venturing into this juice processing from mangoes, but the way someone scared me, said, you see, now when we put in we have what they call the preservatives that we have to use, and it kills also sometimes. I know now someone scared me so much. So if we really had a consultation team of experts under the Forum for Development of Greater Nebbi, then it will also help us in consulting these people. Like Engineer Boris is there, we can consult on the machines. When it comes to other things, then it will help us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jaganda. Very important point raised there. And
Doctor,
yes.
I wanted to comment more about this aflatoxin, because last year when we went to Tororo, farmers really complained, because you find it in the end, it comes to how they're storing the maize product, the grains, let me say, the hay. You find we need to really improve on our storage procedures and our storage capabilities, which can prevent the molds from growing up, because when the molds grow up, they'll bring in the aflatoxin in the grains, which in the end is very poisonous to us. So aflatoxin, it's an international issue right now. We need to work on it.
Thank you, Engineer Boris. Before I pick up on another person, Mr. Odongemilio, President FDGN, the last comment from Jaganda is very important. Forming up a consultation.
Yes, Doc, I can hear you.
Yeah, I hope you heard what Jaganda said.
Yeah, I did.
About the FDGN forming up a consultation team of experts that our members could consult on certain issues, especially when it comes to agriculture. So I was just reminding you to put that in your notes.
It's okay, but as I noted, I also wanted to mention this, because when we do Zoom meetings like this, many members who are not on the WhatsApp of FDGN miss out how we do some of these consultations. One of the things I have always been talking about is that on the WhatsApp platform, we do a lot of knowledge sharing, we do a lot of consultations, we share information and opportunities. So from this Zoom meeting, I want to inform the Jagandas and others that even if by proxy, if you have a burning issue just throw it, find a way of sending it to the FDGN WhatsApp, because many of the people logged in here are members on the active WhatsApp group. So there you find people are looking for some other people's numbers. You just drop a message. Instantly you see the message is shared. Somebody is looking for an office to find information XYZ. The information is, because we have all categories of people with information that we basically need to fill the information gap we have been suffering from. And that's one of the critical reasons we cherish the presence of this forum virtually. Thank you, but it's noted.
Thank you. Two things before I pick on the next person to talk. Number one, if you need a copy of this presentation, we'll make it available on our forum and we'll share it with you guys. Number two, this is to Engineer Boris. Somebody asked something about cassava peeler. You didn't respond to that. So could you say something about it? Do you have a machine already in place, or it is something that you'll take up?
It's something I'm going to take up. I've ever seen it actually somewhere, but it's a workable thing.
Thank you. Morris, you've had that. So probably you need to liaise with the engineer, put him under pressure. If you have to invest in that machine, please do so.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's the machine that we're all looking forward to. I also don't want my mom to be going to a share every weekend to peel cassava when there's a machine that could easily do it for her. Right. Okay. Onimgio Ismail and Walter Maker, I know that you hands have been up for a very, very long time. So I'm going to use what we call the Kalulu method and just pick one of you. So Nim, unmute yourself, please.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. This is really appreciated. I am so grateful for this opportunity to come and meet with my colleagues from the Greater Nebbi. I raised a few questions. Number one, what is our objective when we host such a meeting? Do we want to attract investment from among us ourselves, or do we also want to attract investors from outside so that we can be able to increase productivity of our farmers and improve their livelihood? One of the things that I have noted precisely was about productivity. The numbers that are coming, that we are talking about in this forum, is mainly numbers of crops, produced at a national level. I'm very concerned that for us to be able to attract people, even from among ourselves, to be able to take investment decisions.
Onim, have we lost you? Members, I think we've lost Onim. I would have responded to the first issue that you raised. Onim, are you back? No, it's not back.
On what we can do in our agriculture, we need to know how much of what is in the region. From Arua, I drove through War, Atiak, and then eventually Paida. And I was able to see crops growing in very, very small scale. And when we talk about maize, you find that people hardly have, I did not see somebody with maybe 5 or 6 acres of maize. Even the cassava that we are consuming a lot, it is very hard to find people growing it on large scale. What I know for sure is that our areas like Zombo is producing a lot of coffee, but this coffee is not being marketed as coffee that is coming from Zombo. And for me, I find that as a bit of a problem, because then how are we going to get support to our coffee farmers if our coffee is leaving the district or the region and going to Bugishu and is being marketed as Elgon coffee? Because then I think most likely all the support that we can attract in the coffee sector will be headed to Bugishu Shabu region, and nobody will know that there is Zombo coffee, and yet Zombo is producing quite a substantial amount of coffee. So I would like to request the leadership of Greater Nebbi to also consider promoting our product and branding our product as something that is coming from our region, especially coffee. The politics of coffee is very tough out there. It's important. There are people who are willing to buy coffee at a higher price under an arrangement so that they can be able to support the coffee farmers. But if our coffee is ending up in the market as coffee from Bugishu, then I don't see possibility of our farmer benefiting from such kind of support. Otherwise, I'm so grateful for this forum, and I'm looking forward to participating next.
Thank you very much, Onim. Some of the issues that you've raised,
I would still emphasize
sorry, Onim, you were saying something? Right.
Lost you.
Onim, your network is a bit jumpy. I just wanted to say, the first question that you asked was why we do this kind of programs. We do it for two reasons. Number one is to share knowledge and information. I believe the president FDGN will have more to say on this, so I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Odongo. Odongo Emilio. Odongo Emilio. Right, you seem to be occupied. So Walter Mika. Unmute yourself. Yeah. Before you talk, Walter Mika.
Yes.
Can I just recognize the presence of Mr. Rupin David Roda? It's unfortunate you've joined us late. If you have anything to say, I would really appreciate you raise your hands up and contribute as well. Mr. Mika, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone on Greater Nebbi Forum. One, I have 2 points to put across. The first one is complimenting Engineer Jakech Boris about aflatoxins. The little I know about this is it stems mainly from post-harvest handling and poor storage facilities. You could have traces of aflatoxins on your produce, and main policies in food standards is moisture content for produce to be stored for a period of time. If you don't control, or if you don't bring to exact moisture content of each food produce, then it is very likely that you are going to have degradation of the quality of your produce. Actually, it is the aflatoxins, which is poisonous to the human health. I think that's what I would say. It is of paramount importance that any food produce being prepared for storage should meet the required moisture content in order for it not to lose value easily. That is my 1 point. Secondly, I happen to own a company now that has been running since 2013, and we've been importing agro-processing machines. We do importation from Brazil, from Colombia. We also have some machine that we import from Japan. And where the trend of events is going, I think we share same experiences with Engineer Boris, there is need that we need to reach Tedero. That means we have to present to the market machines which are reliable and affordable for the local communities. So this urges us to go into fabrication. We start local fabrication, but in the end, we want to up our standards, but also we want to meet the market considerably. So in one way or the other, we want to formalize our fabrications, not just to call it locally fabricated machines, but we want to call these machines made in Uganda. Now, one quick challenge that we face.
Okay, you've gone offline.
And secondly, taxation. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, my internet is a bit bad. Currently, we are experiencing a surge in taxation, even in machines that we import from outside. As manufacturers, as traders, the tax policy of Uganda considers a trader as not the final beneficiary of these machines. So we are bound to pay certain taxes which are not waived off. Now, even worse still, as fabricators, we are buying raw materials from very good steel companies, and we pay taxes, we pay the VAT. And when we fabricate our machines and we are selling it as a finished product, we are supposed to sell it to farmers or to processors, end users, and we are not bound to impose these tax elements on these machines. Then you find it is a question of disarray. On the other side, on imported machines that come as agro-processing machines, we meet all the tax obligations, but you find that the end analysis, when we do our costing to sell these machines to the end processors, we do not need to tax them, but we have to impose the tax element that we met onto our selling price to the end user. So in the end, it apparently appears as if these machines are getting expensive because most of the farmers or the end users are not tax compliant or are not even registered for taxation. They swallow this pride and buy these machines, and they cannot even claim their taxes as we would. So I think we need a lot of tax guidance in order to keep us viable and sustaining in this challenging market of manufacturing, engineering and manufacturing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Walter. A lot of these issues that are being raised right now, I believe the answers would come much, much better if we had a synergy in the professionals, the different professionals talking about the different issues. I don't think an engineer like Boris would know deeper on issues of taxation. However, him being a businessman as well as an investor and an inventor would be more aware of the processes involved in doing some of these things. So these are some things that you'll be sharing with us. Okay. I'm also looking through the chats. Brian Ogenrod, I've seen some more contributions from you. I'm not going to read through again, but I want to reassure you that we are looking through the chats. Your queries or your suggestions and your proposals will be passed over to the relevant persons that are supposed to respond to. I believe Boris is also looking at that. The President FDGN is also looking at that as well. I'm going to pick on Mr. Rupin David. You can unmute yourself, brother.
Thank you, Dr. Jaguru. I hope you can get me clearly.
Very clear.
Okay, thank you. I'm in a noisy place. You will forgive me. I'm going to speak very fast so that I can put across what I am thinking.
Now, if you're going to speak very fast, you're already a naturally very fast speaker. Are we going to handle?
Yes, I've been in touch with Boris. The first thing I encourage him is to get an investment license from the Uganda Investment Authority. And I hope he's working on that. The second point is that there's going to be an industrial park in Arua, but the focus is going to be mainly on manufacturing, because Arua is positioning itself as a trade, a business hub for Uganda, Congo, South Sudan, Central African Republic, and Chad. So the push is for the industrial park in Arua to focus on manufacturing of items like soap, maybe sugar, maybe other things that are tradable across the border. Now, Nebbi, Greater Nebbi is more agricultural than any other part of West Nile. It's important that Greater Nebbi now start thinking of perhaps a smaller industrial park which is agro-based. For example, I was very happy to get that information from Benson that they've set up cassava processing plants in Greater Nebbi. Now, we have a lot of agro products that need to be processed. And I think for Greater Nebbi, we should look at maybe a smaller industrial park. It may not be 500 acres, maybe even 200, but that focuses on value addition to crops that we grow in Greater Nebbi. So this is something I want to put to this forum, that as we go forward, let's start thinking about an industrial park in Greater Nebbi that focuses on value addition, agro value addition. And I'm happy people like Walter, Omika, Boris, and others, maybe they can spearhead this. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Mr. What you're talking about is a very, very important issue. We need to pick up as a people of Greater Nebbi. But of course, it also involves a lot of political push and pull. So I am hoping that we have some politicians in attendance today who will take that up. If not, I'm requesting that President FDGN, in your notes, take note of that, pass it over, pass it down to our politicians and tell them this is what we need to be doing. Mr. Onimgi Ismail, are you still raising your hands up, or that was the previous hand?
I think that is a previous hand. I can put it down. Thank you.
Down, please. It must be tired right now.
No, I'm still interested. I'm enjoying it.
I mean the hand. I just want to recognize and appreciate everybody. We are soon coming to the end of this discussion today. However, if there's still any more issues that you want to be handled, you can also chat. Yes, Mr. President. Go on.
I'm asking something from Mr. Onimgi. Onimgi was talking about the objective of this kind of Zoom meeting. I don't know whether we picked that.
You need to respond on that.
Yes, these meetings are about sharing information. You know, when you don't have information, you cannot decide effectively. You cannot even do business when you don't have market information, production costs. So all these especially for today's meeting, it's about the opportunity in agri-business value addition in GN. And the bottom line is how can we put our hands together? It is about the promotion of the principle of cottage industries. You know, it's about the small holdings that aggregately bring the bigger volumes we may be talking about. Some of us on this forum probably have gone to India, have gone to China. When we talk about made in India, made in China, the components of some of these machines are done from households in the backyard. So we may not need to look at 10 acres, 50 acres of maize or cassava to continue to establish processing units. It's about the outgrowing principle, so that we know that in sub-county like Arombo, how many 1 acre farmers of cassava do we have? If there are 1,000, then you know we are talking about 1,000 acres. So aggregately, that becomes a bigger enterprise. Now, in the business value chain, basically, we usually talk about the 3 Qs: the quantity, the quality, and it is 2 and consistency. We may talk about any of these products, mango, cashew nuts, cassava, but the question is, what quantities can we raise for the market? What is the quality? Because the market out there requires specific quality to be adhered to. That's why we have UNBS to certify these products before they are on the shelves. And then the consistency. If we are going to promise a buyer 10 metric tons of high quality cassava flour monthly, is that going to be for the next period of the contract as it stands, so that you don't promise 10 metric tons monthly, you end up with 2 in some months in the inconsistency. So all these are issues we need to share information about the right thing at the right time. Finally, on the issue of investors, we have always been getting it wrong when we describe who is an investor. The principle or the knowledge has been an investor is supposed to be a muzungu, to put it loosely. But we are aware that we can invest. Investment is about establishing a business entity that adds value to resources we have and solves the problem of society. That is investment. If you're putting up a water processing unit, you are an investor. We have Honorable Dujanga with the Agu water in Paida. He's a local investor. He's not a Muzungu. He's not a Chinese. So, Mr. Onim, what we are saying, even you, if you have the right information, you can invest in Greater Nebbi and make money. You have the information on how to start, how to grow, how to sustain. That's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to reassure members that we have time to do this. And normally, I scheduled a meeting for 2 hours, but we can go as long as we want. As long as we still have issues that we need to talk about, we should not be restricting ourselves. So, Engineer Boris, hope you're still around.
Yeah.
We still have issues that people want to talk about. Dr. Sam will pick you up in a minute. I just wanted to reassure members that we're still around. Dr. Sam, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Dr. Javur. Mine are just maybe my final comment, big ones. One, engineer proposed to come and do some training in Greater Nebbi, but even for our technical people who are there on the ground, I'm wondering whether it's possible to include in that training part of the menu a simple by which a farmer can test for aflatoxin. Of course, we can try all sorts of things to prevent, but sometimes it's good to go an extra mile even before you start putting on a product on the market, even before you consume it yourself to test it. I do a bit of farming. So if I harvest groundnuts, for example, even before my family starts consuming, if I can do a simple test for aflatoxin, would be good. So if we can be coached even on those simple methods. Now, I have attended a number of trainings in Namulonge and elsewhere organized by the Monitor and the New Vision. And then I'm also on some farmers fora. One of the things I have found very, very, very important is sharing of information in farming. If you do your things alone, you can end up locked inside without the method of improving, without all these. You actually do better in farming when you share information and other people start coming up who also do similar things with you, and even your voices can become louder. Now, unfortunately, apart from this thing we are organizing now, I have tested that within Greater Nebbi, sharing of information is sometimes not very easy. One time I was discussing with the technocrat in Greater Nebbi about using certain small farmers, encouraging people to learn from them. If I want to start doing, I'm just giving an example. If I want to start doing some small fabrication, if I go and see what Mr. Omika is doing, and I go and see what Engineer Boris is doing, I might say, this is above my level. And in fact, one time I was so much discouraged when a very farmer who imports huge machines from abroad was brought to teach us. I said, I think this is not somebody I can learn from. I need to learn from somebody who started simple. Now, when I talked to this technocrat, he said, what is there to learn from these small farmers? If people want to learn, they should go to ADRA. ADRA is an agricultural college of the diocese somewhere in Ulepi, an agricultural college of Nebbi Catholic Diocese. People should go to ADRA. So I asked him, up to now, how many people have managed to go to ADRA? What is the cost of going there, spending weeks and so on? And how many people have you afforded to take there? And there was none. There are a few people who had gone under special arrangements, but was none that as technical department in Nebbi had managed to take. But if somebody was picked, if a group of people were picked, even pupils in the school, students in the school were picked and taken to somebody in a book, or somewhere in Zombo, they would even go more easily. And, the sort of thing that New Vision does, Monitor does. But I could not see this coming in this technical person, somebody who should be, motivating this sort of processes of learning at local level. So I think to our technical people who are here on the forum, unfortunately, I see somebody like Dr. Quid is somebody who is retired. So he cannot go and influence colleagues. And then the others who are here, I don't know who and so on. But those who are technical try to help local sharing of information within the district. My third and final comment is about the private sector. There was a time in Nebbi, it was difficult to get people who are practicing. In medicine, I'm a medical doctor. So in medicine, you find a lot of private medical practitioners. They're there all around the place. In other parts of Uganda, like southwestern part of Uganda, there are not a lot of private practitioners. For example, in the veterinary field, animal husbandry, and so on, they are there. But up in our place, especially in Greater Nebbi, I don't see them. They are not there. So I think we need to ask our colleagues to encourage also private practice in those fields of production so that they can be more, because when I go through, for example, the district production office, the procedure, the bureaucracy may not help me immediately. I need somebody who can come to me now and now. And that in the private sector, that is much easier. I want to encourage more of our technocrats who are there in this field of production to avail their private time to us who want to start something small. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. Orach.
Hello.
Boris, you want to say something? Go on.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. It talked about how we can detect aflatoxin in maize. Basically, there are many methods, but I see that one of the most common is they use this black light is used to identify the samples that potentially maybe contain aflatoxin. And there's an acid called kojic acid. It is when the fluorescence turns into blue, green, yellow under the black light, then you can confirm that the aflatoxin is in the maize. or in the grains. But then there are other many methods which you can use to determine the aflatoxin levels in the grains or in any food of yours. But some of them are a bit expensive, like the chromatographic methods. Those ones are very expensive. The thin layer chromatography, the high performance liquid chromatography. There are quite many methods. Then there are even methods which employ the spectroscopic methods. They are of different forms. But in the end, they are the basic ones. But the most important is we should control the amount of water that we leave in our grains. Because if we don't, then the molds will grow and will bring in the aflatoxins. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Boris. Dr. Quinn, I saw you just raise your hand and put it back. Do you want to say something, sir? You could unmute yourself, Dr. Quinn. Dr. Queer.
That must be Dr. Queer James, DVO of Noya district.
Yeah, so he had raised his hands up, then he just disappeared.
Okay.
David Rupain, is that the previous hand up or that's a
No, this is a second one. I just wanted to add on to the issue of aflatoxin.
Go on.
I'm sure many of you have heard of a guy called Amos Wekesa. Amos Wekesa is like the poster boy or poster child for tourism, but he has pivoted to agro-processing. So he's setting up
Amos Wekesa.
Wekesa, yes.
Yeah.
He's in tourism full time, but he has also pivoted to agro-processing. So he's setting up a big plant in Soroti, yes. Yeah, he's setting up. And that plant is coming full with a machine for detecting aflatoxin installed as part of it's like full package. So when we were for our routine monitoring, I engaged the engineer. He's from the UK. He said, just like engineer has elaborated, there's so many ways you can actually do that, from the most expensive to the less expensive. And you can do that based on somebody's capacity to pay. So I want to encourage our potential agro-processors that once you set up, like the guys who have set up the cassava processing plant, that I can actually connect them. This guy is still in Uganda, so we can connect them, and they can do something about that from the beginning, so that you don't need to wait much later when things go awry. Then on the issue of industrial parks that I talked about, the president is already said government is no longer going to buy land for industrial parks development. Government is going to engage local governments to get land for industrial parks development. So the onus now is on our local governments to get land. Then authorities like Uganda Investment Authority can now come and help develop the industrial parks. So the local governments of Nebbi, Zombo, Pakwach should now focus on that and see how to get land and then invite, for example, Uganda Investment Authority to come and help them set up. That's what I wanted to add, is what I missed in the previous submission. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you, David. But you see, some of the issues that you are raising there are really, really crucial issues, and they veer more towards the political bit now. I'm glad that the president, FDGN, is here. These are the things that you should be putting on your notes. Pass them down to our politicians. Engineer Boris, there's something that you didn't answer that was raised earlier in the charts. And it was that what feeds can be derived from waste and for what animal? If you could elaborate a bit more on that.
Feeds derived from waste?
Yeah.
For animals?
Yes. And what kind of animals? Chickens, goats, pigs, name it.
Yeah, okay. Then we can start with from birds. The carcass from birds, let me say the feathers, the legs, the heads, which we don't usually consume. Actually, we don't eat them. We can dry them and crush them, and they can be used for swines. Swines are like pigs. Pigs can eat them.
Swine is a political term, you know.
Okay, they can be used.
It used to be used to insult the opposition in Uganda.
They can use them for pigs.
Yes.
Then there is also bran. Bran you can get them from grains, like maize. If you're processing first-class portion, there is that outer layer. It's called the bran.
Okay.
You can use them in feeding your poultry. You just have to mix them with some vitamins to feed the poultry. Then even
and where do you get the vitamin? What are the sources of those vitamins that you need to put mix with the
they are readily actually available in downtown Kampala. The vitamins. You know this place near Owino, they sell a lot of agricultural produce there. If you go there, you'll find the vitamins.
Okay.
Which you can mix with the bran to make the poultry feed.
Brilliant. Dr. Arinyo Baifa, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Dr. Davuro, and thanks for moderating the wonderful session. I have only two issues in agriculture. I'm not a very good farmer. I'm just trying to learn how to start farming. But then I started with a very big disappointment, and I need to be guided maybe out of the forum, something like that. I think I had thought of
You've got the contact
farming
that you need. You've got Engineer Boris's contact as well. You can contact him after the discussion. Go on.
Thank you.
Go on, Dr. Rino.
Okay, so okay, that is for I got affected by bacterial wilt twice. So my question is, how can I suspect that this soil has bacterial wilt? That's one thing. And then secondly, I wanted to ask something on poultry farming. I think same thing, I may have to contact that very contact to guide me how we can go about this. But I need an answer on bacterial wilt. Thank you.
Okay. Engineer Boris, I don't know if you could respond to that.
They're taking me into agriculture, but what I remember about a bacterial wilt, they are common in areas with high soil pH. Like you can diagnose them by cutting maybe stems of some of the things you have in the garden. Because you know that when it is infected, the bacteria builds and clogs up the stems. So when you find some color shade, maybe it has turned the stems of those things where the soil is. That is where you can really know that I think I have some issues, and then you can benchmark on how to go by it. You seek for someone with a better knowledge. Basically, by the way, I have to be honest, this is now too much into agriculture because I'm not an agriculturalist. I'm basically dealing in the machine aspect, the value addition. Yeah.
Yes. No, I can totally understand that, and this is something that the president FDGN needs to take on board. We need to bring in more.
We needed to bring some agriculturalists.
We need to bring
someone
in
who deals with this.
Yeah, to answer some of these questions. So, Mr. Odongo Emilio,
like we have,
take note.
Dr. Kennedy.
Yeah.
We have three sectors in the value chain. There is production, there is processing, and there is distribution. I needed someone to come and handle the production aspect, where planting of crops, the challenges affecting farmers, the post-harvest handling. Then what we have done today is basically on the processing aspect. Then someone should also come in the distribution. How can I market my products? There are different areas. There are three of them. If we can do all the three, it will really make a complete insight. That is the recommendation I can make.
Absolutely. You know, as we always say, we keep learning from what we're doing right now, you know, and that's some of the things that we need to put in place, so that next time when a question like that comes, there's somebody readily in place to answer them. You know, we can't be a jack of all trade. You know, in your area, you handle agro-processing equipment.
And maybe developing products. You can ask me, how do you make ice cream?
Absolutely.
How do you design a machine for making these?
Absolutely.
Like that. Then someone should come and talk about, how do I do post-harvest handling? How do I plant this crop? How do I detect this infection in my garden?
Absolutely.
That is now the production aspect.
Those are the
like
gaps. Those are the gaps in knowledge we are identifying out of some of this. Mr. Ishmael asked a question earlier. One of the objectives of having these Zoom meetings, it is to share knowledge, and as we share knowledge, we keep discovering more of the gaps in the knowledge that we have. You know, so it's always a good thing to do these sort of things. We always discover what is missing. So thank you very much.
Dr. Ken, can I chip in something?
Yes, please.
Dr. Baifa asked something about how to detect if the soil where she's doing an enterprise has bacterial wilt. And I guess she started doing something with the bananas, because bacterial wilt affects bananas. I wanted to ask Doctor if she could identify where she was doing this enterprise, and ideally, usually every sub-county in Uganda now, even in GN, has a production officer that can always be tapped on to check on our goats or our crops, so that we don't go blindly with the enterprises we wish to invest in. But as Dr. Sam mentioned, that sometimes the guys in office have their own challenges of bureaucracies and availability, but doesn't stop us from tapping on them to come and check what is going on in our areas where we want to invest. It is very important because they are deployed by government, they're paid by taxpayers' money. So we as the citizens have to benefit from the service they offer. And we can only benefit when we tap them. We need to know who they are so that we don't engage them by proxy. Agriculture is one of the things that is very difficult to do online. You can do online shopping, you can do online dating, but not online agriculture. That's what I wanted to add.
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, what you're talking about here, most people do not know or are not aware of it. So it is up to us as FDGN to get that information out there to people. You know, if you need any help in terms of agriculture and so on, there are people you need to contact.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we need to do that. We need to step up our game.
Yeah.
Whoever is on Galaxy S10, unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please. We don't know who is that.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I didn't know that I did not register my name. I'm Collins Adubango. I'm in Arua.
Collins Wafoyo.
Yeah, very Wafoyo. I didn't want to speak much because, first of all, for my sister who asked about the wilt, I'm a professional in agriculture. Unfortunately, I'm not practicing it for now. I'm somewhere else doing administrative issues work. So, but I just wanted to pick from there. I heard the president mentioning something about bacterial wilt. Then I was tempted to push my hand up. First of all, to start from where Mr. President said, bacterial wilts are not only in bananas, they're in a number of vegetables as well, and a number of crops. But the bottom line is that we may need to identify some of the areas that's affecting us that need more discussion, and we can bring in a number of staff who are down, of our colleagues who are down on the ground practicing on a Zoom meeting like this, and we have an interactive discussion on that. And maybe to go much deeper to our colleague, our sister, who talked about the wilt. In vegetable, for example, if you pick one of the stem and squeeze, you will find a white ooze appearing after applying some pressure, and that's a clear example of the wilt on the plant. And unfortunately, it is not detected easily when the plants are not on the ground, but when the plants there are on the ground, you can detect the signs. And it brings me to a point for some of us who are practicing agriculture on the ground, and especially where we are utilizing the soil, which I know is a matter for agri. My advice is that we may need to venture into testing our soil fertility. This is something that even for us as the agri professionals who are on the ground fail to tell the farmers who are utilizing the fertilizers. We have in a big farm, we have the soil productivity different in all the areas. And testing a soil is very cheap if you go to Uganda. We have people from Greater Nebbi working in Uganda. We have people from West Nile whom you can link up to. You just pick a small sample, take to Uganda, they test so that you know if I'm using fertilizer, I'm using how much fertilizer. They will advise you accordingly, but not putting fertilizer as people advise us. It kills a lot of our soil without knowledge. And yet those who are producing the fertilizers know very well that we shall use this fertilizer after knowing how much we are to apply in the soil, given the soil takes, the soil deficiency. So my advice is only that to request those who are having farming going on a large scale to pick sample at random. If it's a flat land, you just pick some 2-3 samples at random in the whatever in the soil in the area. But if it's a sloping land, it's good to pick up in the middle and then the bottom, and then you put in your kavera. You go to Kawanda, board a bus, or you send even in a bus. They will test for you within 2 days. You get for you the result and the advice of how much fertilizer to apply on the ground to use for a particular crop, because they will give you advice based on the crop you are going to use. So this is a little input I wanted to give, but otherwise my interest is that when we are having a specific discussion, the president should mobilize a number of us who are on the ground, and then we see how we can come in. And the last bit of it is that we see agriculture as a potential for us in Greater Nebbi. And we have a number of people who are professional in this area. And yet those who are practicing are not those who are professional in this area. So how do we support these people? So we need to see how we can bring these people together, just like Dr. Sam is trying to, and the team are trying to bring the doctors in Greater Nebbi together. So how can we bring these practicing people together to see how they can be reached by those who are practicing, doing the farming on the ground? This is my little submission. Otherwise, thank you for giving me this opportunity and organizing this Zoom meeting. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Adubango. Mr. President, you wanted to
Dr.
say
Ken,
something?
Ken, yeah, I just wanted to draw to our attention something that Collins mentioned about soil testing. It is not very easy for every farmer to be sending their samples to Kawanda for testing. This is what I want to say. We have Abizardi, Abizono Research Agricultural Research Institute, which ideally should be doing some of these things. Abizardi is based in Arua. But also from the local government point of view, I have seen in our production unit at the municipality, the production unit has a small soil testing kit. So it means the local governments down there at the production department or even at the district should be having a soil testing kit. We should be doing some of these simple soil analysis to understand if this particular land is good enough for crop X, Y, Z. If it is deficient, how deficient is it to allow what amount of fertilizers to be used? So that is one area I wanted to add. Number two, mobilization of technocrats that may be required to attend Zoom meetings like this. We usually disseminate the posters for these Zoom meetings ahead of time, 2-3 days or even a week before the day for the meeting. So all these other people of ours who are professionals in the different areas would ideally log on so that they can give in their submission to support these processes. Otherwise, that's what I wanted to chip in. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I think what Adubango is saying is we just have to be more proactive. Putting the poster out there is just not enough. We need to consult people as well. Talk to people individually. Say, look, we're having this Zoom meeting. Would you care, to come in and give us your professional opinion as well on this particular area? So that's something we need to take up on. It's a very good feedback that I'm appreciative of. We'll take that on.
Yeah, that's noted.
Other than that, I'm not seeing any hands up.
I think we need to wrap up.
Yeah. I would like to appreciate and thank everybody who has stand up for this meeting. If I haven't mentioned your name, please forgive me. But I can see people like David Spinach, how is Congo? I can see Dr. Nyathirombo Amos.
Actually, I wanted to ask the question and inquire something small.
Go ahead, man.
Thank you so much for organizing this meeting. Engineer Boris, I wanted to know if you can make a machine for squeezing palm oil from the palm seed. Is it also, you know how hard it is? The seed is hard. So is it possible as well?
Yeah, it is possible. Nothing is impossible.
So how much could that be?
The range, it depends on the production capacity. It is basically between, the one I will recommend is the one of around 7 million. Can handle actually, can produce around maybe 500 to 700 liters per hour.
Thank you. The second one is not a question per se. I have some small land in Zombo, and I have matoke there. These are banana, the one they call matoke, the one we eat for breakfast. And there is one also in the central area where I have banana. You take the two banana, the matoke from our upland Okoro and matoke from central. The texture of ours are hard. Sometimes I go with friends and we go up to my garden in actually it's in Oduk village in Zombo. The matoke there is hard, and the matoke from Kampala central is soft. Could it be the solution bringing the differences? Could it be the type of banana that we plant in the upland Okoro? However, going by the market demands and so forth, since we are producing banana, we needed to produce across the market, so that because the greater population of Central depend on banana, that type of food is banana. If we can produce for that market, actually, we may lack land for the production. So what guide can the agriculturists give us in improving on the quality of that banana that we grow upland? So
Spinach, I think that question will have to go to the agriculturists here, and the only one we have right now is Dubango.
Yes, can I respond to that?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm only going to respond specifically to banana. We have a variety of varieties of matoke.
Yeah.
The soft one and the hard one. And also we take cognizant of what we use them for. If you look at what we use bananas for in our Greater Nebbi, we use them more for matoke. We use them more for breakfast. And for Kampala, that side, they use it more for quail. They smash it for quail, that kind of thing. And that only tells the reason. So the softer banana is more directed to that. But above all, we have two in terms of improvement, research. If you go to the central region, they tend to grow more of the improved bananas than our local banana.
Yes.
If you come to Zombo, you will find there are two types of bananas, the soft one and the hard ones. And you can just see it clearly when they're selling it, that this one is a hard banana and this one is a soft banana. And if you look at the soft banana, where they got it from, they will tell you where they got it from. You will realize that they are the improved quality. They're not the local quality, but the local quality is a hard one. So also going to the research, remember, most of our research stations started more around the central region. And therefore, when it comes to banana, being the staple food, they're embracing what can come for them faster. Just like for us, we are going for we call it now longe. We have left all the cassava that used to be the terengoles and so forth, the somblis and so forth. Now, they have embraced the technology of having the improved variety that can be applicable very well for them in the Western region. So for us as well here, that's where we have to go for. If we want to have the soft part that produces faster, we may need to go for that, but also it is multiplying. So you may need to make choices between the bananas you are growing. But most of the hard ones, are just the natural bananas that people have in the valleys, and they cannot kill them off. They are going for them like that. That's the little I can give on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dubango. Dr. Sam, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I have a few comments about bananas. I have tried farming bananas, and maybe I can just share a little bit of my experience. If you want bananas for juice, go to what is called FIA 23. That is a banana which is quite soft, and you can easily use it for making banana juice. If you want banana that we eat in our traditional way, which is soft and big, you can either have FIA 17 or what we call the M9, that is Cabana. Those ones are big. Now, the difference between FIA 17 and Cabana, that's M9, is that the M9 is said, I'm not an expert, but is said to have a little bit more disease resistance than FIA 17. I have planted all. I have planted FIA 17 and M9. I have 23 for juice. Now, when I started selling bananas in Nebbi, because they are huge, people thought those matokes of mine were bogoya, but they're not bogoya. They are specifically good for food security because if you don't eat them quickly, because they're very big, they ripen. Now, usually when our matoke ripens, we consider it now inedible. We throw them away. But when the M9 and FIA 17 ripen, they become actually like bogoya, and you can still eat them in the ripened form without cooking.
That's interesting.
Now, yes, that is for M9 and FIA 17. Now, I initially planted bananas like I was, without taking much precaution until I brought one of my staff who originally as an agricultural officer and practiced a lot on bananas in Kawanda. I brought him home for 1 week and he taught me quite a lot on bananas. So I had to remove bananas in the whole field of 3 acres and let the field stay like that unused for about 1 year. And then I started planting step by step, using the methods required for planting, having manures and so on. And one of the things I found quite expensive in our place is if you want to do mulching. Mulching is when you want to get grass, a lot of grass, and put there, because the grass will do about 2-3 things. One, the grass will hold water, will reduce the evaporation of water, and therefore will keep the soil under your banana in a banana plantation relatively cool, even as you go into the dry season. The second thing is that the grass will gradually also rot and will provide for you compost for the bananas, and you will see it is improving the fertility of the land. And the third thing the mulching will do is that it will kill weeds. Now, I tried to plant another crop, which is like beans. I'm forgetting its name now. It creeps. Now, when it creeps, it covers the whole field and it will kill all the weeds for you. But because it is a legume, it will improve the fertility of the soil through nitrogen fixation. The problem is that while it is doing that, you need to have workers who are very vigilant to keep doing spot weeding around the bananas. If you don't do that, it will climb and cover, tie together all the leaves of the bananas and will kill your bananas. So when I found managing it was becoming difficult because I'm here in Kampala, people are there. If I don't wake up to say, go check, I find it was becoming very difficult to manage. I removed it. I said, let me go the traditional way. But the biggest challenge I have met in farming bananas is that I managed to change the taste of people people who are fearing it, that was Bogoya, people in Nebbi actually started running after my bananas. Each time they brought a pickup, the people would rush to buy. I took to Gulu, they bought. So that one is the problem. The biggest problem I got was theft. My farm happens to be across River Nyarodu. So you cannot be staying across there all the time. Theft is the biggest problem in our place. So if you use proper methods, for example, if you're going to be cutting the leaves, don't use one knife to cut another plant like that, you're going to be transferring disease, the bacterial wilt and so on, which Dr. Baifa talked about. You should not, so we can go into those technicalities later about that. Thank you.
Oh, Dr. Sam, that was very, very information-packed comment there. And for those of you who are involved in farming, you better get in touch with Dr. Sam. There's a lot to learn from him.
Dr. Kennedy.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to say something that I will request you guys to organize a Zoom meeting. And because I've seen the conversation, we really need some specialists who should come and share his or her experience on the issue relating to productivity.
Yes.
So we needed to organize someone, we get someone to talk about that. Then later on, we also get someone to talk about the distribution aspect, the marketing of agricultural products. After processing it, how do you market it? That will be really very insightful.
I absolutely agree.
Okay, thank you.
Adugomo, you can unmute yourself.
Sorry, that was an older hand.
Oh,
yeah.
Patrick Onyai. I see Patrick Onyai had come in.
Yeah, yes.
You want to say something, sir?
And
hello, Patrick, you're there.
Hello. Yeah. What I wanted to add to the voice is that it is better, since we need to get people, the technocrats, for productivity, so that at least they educate us, because there are a lot of things which is required. It's where if you are going to agriculture, as it has been hinted earlier on, first of all, you need to know the soil quality of your area where you are going to put your investment. So as an investor, there's a lot of things which you need to do. You need to prepare. You need to know what you are going to do in your soil. What is the quality of your soil? What do you want to add into your soil so that you plan properly? And before you go into that investment, you need to do a lot of research. And you need to do a lot of learning in that particular investment you want to do, so that you are aware of the risks. The risks are there. Like, for example, my colleague, Dr. Baifwa, complained of his chicken, chicken, there are risks. So you have to know. And as you say, the quality of your chicken, quality is very important. Because if you buy a poor quality chicken, then you end up losing. So whatever investment you are going to go in, make sure you read something or you go for training, you get the knowledge, and you keep on getting the knowledge. And then you keep who have done or have been successful in that particular area for some good reason, and they are successful, you go to them and learn from them. What you do, then you can be able to improve onto your investment. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. I would like to think that we have exhausted today's discussion. And we've taken a lot of things on board, the things that we need to do better next time, especially when it comes to agriculture. we do have a lot of gaps that we have identified in today's discussion, especially from the technical aspect of agriculture. I want to thank Engineer Boris for giving us his expertise. I would like to encourage everybody who has attended today to consult him further on developing some of those machines. I'm very, very interested in the cassava peeling machine, actually. So we're going to work on that. Boris, you've got a lot of work coming on your way.
Okay.
Let's be prepared. To every other member who has attended today, thank you very much. And as always, this is FDGN. We are doing this. Thank you. And have a good evening.
Thank you.
Greetings to everybody. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Okay.